If you need help with addiction and don't know where to go, you can call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration 24 hours a day. The number is 1-800-662-HELP or 1-800-662-4357. They work around the clock and will help you find what you need.
Hey, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Not too bad if you consider that not but moments ago, my partner was debunking a theory on another channel. Folks, first of all, congratulations to everybody here. People, you are part of a crew of thousands, and that is just something that is so much fun to say. And I want to congratulate each and every one of you because you had as much to do with this as anyone else. The reality is that we're still growing at a really good clip. And if you read anything, people, they're putting out press releases that kind of growth isn't happening on YouTube. That we're kind of in a place right now where things have slowed down due to all of the strange stuff happening in the world. And another platform that shall remain anonymous in terms of me naming it, that has been stealing a tremendous amount of business. Channels aren't seeing the kind of growth period that used to happen here. However, that has not affected the lifeboat. And that, people, is a feather in the cap to each and every one of the thousands of you that are the crew members of this boat. So Mark and I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I want to bring you up to a little bit of speed. For those of you who haven't seen some of the posts, Andrea's brother is making progress. And he's they're having to really kind of move cautiously and slowly because of the effects of the concussion. If you've ever had a concussion, people, they don't like giving opioids out to people that have concussions. So regardless of his injuries, they're not really able to give him adequate pain meds to take care of that kind of pain. So if we could keep him in our thoughts and in our prayers, that would still be a good thing. Same with JC. We need to keep him in our thoughts and prayers as well. He's going through it from the car wreck that happened. That's Journey's husband. Of course, Saigon and his boy, Leisure, to be sure. We want to keep all of them. And this morning, people, I talked about some stuff that's going on in British Columbia. And we have a guy there, Nick, who, Nick and I were in communication and just went dead. And that's very understandable. If you take a look at what's going on there, entire parts of towns are just washing away. Railroad tracks, cars, houses, the water. They actually said that the phenomenon that drives this is the equivalent of a river in the sky. It's one of those really rare events that happen in weather where they got 30 days plus worth of rain in a 24-hour period of time, which is just astounding. And they're feeling it. They really are. They need our thoughts and prayers. He got an email out to me literally seconds before we went live to tell me that he's not sure whether or not I would even get that email, that his signal goes in and out, that the power there is all gone. But those people, all of them, obviously, Nick is our boy, but everybody, that entire part of the world needs our thoughts and our. He said it just warmed his heart to know that we were all out here, doing what we do. So it's an important thing that we just keep all of those people in our positive thoughts and in our prayers, people. And now we can get to the business of what we do here, the voodoo that we do so well. People, we all remember Ryan, This is, if you're new to the lifeboat, you may not have been around for this, but we were doing live feeds like we always do. And there was a young man, he's in his 20s, and his name is Ryan. Ryan was an alcoholic, and he was very, very open in the comment section. He talked about what it felt like to have to tell his father that he was addicted to drinking, and that this was something that he couldn't help and he couldn't fix on his own. And he felt that he needed some kind of help, with the detox and with the getting sober. And he talked about that disappointment and that was something he was going to have to live with. And there were so many people that came to his aid; it was astounding. The people in the live chat that night, you all instantly told him what it was going to be like if he decided to go the medical route, and he went from being very scared to very excited. He was going into that with the desire to change his life, to really take this serious, and to make us all proud. And obviously, in a very large way, to remove that look that he remembers from his dad's eye. Because I can promise you that as he walked out of that rehab 30 days later, 20 pounds heavier, sober, and really gunning for a new life, that is the start of not only erasing the memory of that look, but also replacing it with something that is akin to admiration and respect, which is always great to see from our parents. But while he was in there, he shot us a message out to tell us that the crew of the boat meant a lot to him, and that he didn't, he wanted us to know that. I thought it was amazing that he took the time while in there to make sure that he reached out to us. And I've told this story before, but when he got out, he sent an email that said, "You might not remember me," as if we hadn't been talking about him the whole time he was gone, and being proud of the fact that he went in there. Well, after a short bit of silence, he reached out to me and sent an email, and he was very willing and open to having this letter read. And I am going to share this with everyone here. This is from Ryan. You may remember him as Ryan 488888, which was the name he uses when he is in the chat. And it says, "First off, thank you for making the YouTube channel. I love the support and honesty from you and everyone on the boat. I said I would email my story, so here it is. Maybe it can help others in a similar spot that I was in." He said, "My backstory starts when I was 14 years old. I'll never forget this. I was at my cousin's house. Me and him are the same age. We decided to steal Mother's Fireball whiskey from the basement. We proceeded to hang out and laugh for the next 4 hours. After 3 shots each, walking home, I remember being in such a great mood, feeling warm on a cold day. I had thought to myself, why can't I do this all the time? Little did I know that down the line in my life, that great mood and warm feeling would be taken over by depression, anxiety, paranoia, self-isolation, and feelings of regret. Fast forward a couple of years, 16 to 18. I was in the prime of my athletics. I played baseball and hockey, both at very high levels, but I developed this bad habit of smoking weed almost every day and drinking on every weekend. I wasn't playing sports. And drinking sometimes, and drinking on the weekends with friends. I'm sorry. I would have said I was just being a normal teenager at that point in my life. I made it to college at 18 years old. I got cut from the baseball team because at that time I refused to work out. All I wanted to do was get high or get drunk and hook up with girls. That's it. I had zero ambition. I turned 19 at the same college. Now my drinking really escalated because I can buy alcohol legally. He's Canadian, people, so the drinking age was, such that he could purchase that. It was a party every single night. If you fast forward 2 more years, I'm 21 at a smaller college, still drinking every day. By this time, I realized that alcohol had complete control over me. I would have to drink at least 6 to 8 tall boys just to feel normal. One day, I said to myself, I've had enough. I looked at the 12-pack laying by my feet, and I grabbed it and I poured it down the toilet with tears in my eyes. I accepted then and there that I was an alcoholic. My brain was scrambled. I had paranoia. I decided to quit cold turkey. It lasted 1 week of pure hell. Cold sweats, throwing up, anxiety, hearing things, sleeping for 2 hours a night with nothing but nightmares. I told myself, well, if this is what being sober is going to be, screw it then. I'll just surrender and I'll drink every day for the rest of my life. I am now 25 and I am 5 days out of rehab, 35 days sober. That was a waste of 4 straight years of my life, hiding from my family, my friends, girlfriends, It was a 24-hour day, 7-day a week job. I lived the life of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So if anyone out there thinks they may have an addiction problem, don't coexist with the addiction, because it only gets worse. Trust me. Those 6 tall boys turned into a water bottle full of vodka before you knew it. I would recommend going to medical detox if you are that far gone as I was, even if it's alcohol or benzos or heroin. I say that because it seems anyone addicted to the uppers has way less of a physical withdrawal and more of a mental withdrawal. They basically sedated me for 4 days. I was awake, but I was out of it. And then I was sent to a rehab where they had me on benzos for a handful of days, but rapidly tapered me off. After that, they put me on blood pressure medication so I wouldn't twitch, and gave me valerian root before bedtime. I learned a lot in rehab. I started to get my memory back, and those bad memories of me drinking fueled me to be sober. I feel like a 1,000-pound weight has been lifted off of my back. It's crazy to think that a substance dictated my life for so long. Will I be sober for the rest of my life? I honestly don't know. All I know is I will be sober today. And like they said at rehab, there are 2 days that are out of our control and don't matter: yesterday and tomorrow. Today, I will stay sober. Thank you for letting me share this, Tommy. Sincerely, Ryan. That's the voice of a 25-year-old man, eloquently told this story and was courageous enough, to allow us to read this out and tell people exactly where he's at. Just a good guy, man, a really good guy, and we got to be really proud of him. That email came in days ago, so he is rapidly approaching the 40-day mark of sobriety. And as he said, people, whether or not he stays sober for the rest of his life is something that he can't answer. And you know what? Most people can't. You've heard me say it before. I intend to be sober in 2026. That may be arrogant. It may be everything they tell you not to say, but I have no intention of ever going back. But the way I'm going to get there is I'm not going to use today. And I think that has to be the focus of everyone, no matter how far into recovery you are, no matter how bulletproof you are. When things start to get tough, what we need to concentrate on is the day that we are in, not yesterday and not tomorrow, as both of those things are not something that can be helped. And today, people, before we get going, we do want to celebrate Ryan. That is awesome. Do hope that he's having the opportunity to pop on and and at least check these out after the fact. I think a lot of times when people first pop out of rehab, there's a period of time as they sort of adjust. We've seen this before with people that did the medical route, and it's always a while before we see him back in the feed, and that's healthy. At least he's reaching out to us, he's talking to us, so that's good stuff. If you are out there and you would like your story to be told, you can write your story to us. You do not have to come on the air if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, and for some people it does. There are some other stories that are going to be coming out this week, but today, people, what I wanted to talk about was coping skills. But before I do, I would like to mention this. We talked briefly the other day about how there may be people that have to get booted out of a live stream. One of the people that I did wrote to me to tell me that I made an error, that man should be allowed back in. I would like the crew to know that I said, absolutely. I have no problem whatsoever with letting you back in. I explained that because of the name that this gentleman had chosen, which was in line with a lot of other names we've already blocked that all came from tragedies in the United States that challenged our government, and the fact that his account was not really all that old, it made us question. Oddly enough, he has decided that what he said was, well, if that kind of drama is going on in a place like this, then I don't want to have anything to do with it anyway. Just so that let it be known that we always do give people an opportunity to come back. He chose not to. So, people, coping is what we're going to be talking about today. And it's a word that just gets absolutely bantied about in our culture. You can't watch daytime television without people talking about coping skills, how individuals cope with this or cope with that. It's a term that really became very, very popular in the last 2 decades. If you went back to the 70s, people weren't talking about coping with things. You went back to the 60s, people didn't talk about coping with things. This is a very new phenomenon as people started to write self-help books, as gurus started to sort of come out of the woodwork. Then a lot of time was spent talking about things like coping with certain situations. Books were written like coping with death, coping with addiction, coping with the loss of a loved one, coping with divorce. I actually started looking up titles, and you could read coping with something or other for about 45 minutes before you got through all of the books that have been written. One of the things that I really want to kind of hammer on is that this is the most important skill that you're going to have in recovery. I have said in the past that communication is the number one skill. I will link this with it in the same sentence. And the reason is, as you'll see, as I start talking about my opinion on this subject, you're going to find that if you're going to cope with something and you're going to do it successfully, then communication is usually one of the backbones of that process. But if you do not learn coping skills, then you're sunk. Not necessarily just for staying sober, because we have established this and we've talked about this at length. There are a lot of people walking the planets whose knuckles are completely white from gripping whatever they're holding on to, right? They're sober, they're not using, but they are miserable. The way that you end that, the way that you become a new creation, and the way that you do not have to spend your entire life thinking, well, I'm sober, if that's the route that you want to go, I mean, you can just go the route of not changing anything about yourself other than your usage. It's not going to make you a happy individual. What you need to do is develop some healthy lifestyle. And the way to do a very healthy lifestyle is to develop some coping skills. And I want to hammer this home because this is super important. There is a big difference between coping skills and coping mechanisms. There are individuals who cope with things and they do the same thing time and time again as a way to cope with certain situations. There are people who shut themselves up like a telescope. When things get bad, they just move and pull into themselves. They back away from society. They don't really address the issue itself. They just shut down. And I have seen this in my lifetime in ways that manifest just some of the most bizarre activity. I had an in-law who had a coping mechanism to just literally not hear anything that she found distressful. There was a situation where we had been staying in her house for the holidays, and she found a syringe in the hamper. Now, the logical guess was that it was mine. Oddly enough, it wasn't. I had reached a stage of my addiction where my veins were so bad that, especially on a vacation or on a road trip, I wasn't traveling with all that stuff. I was smoking the heroin. So when she confronted me and said, I found this in the hamper, I said, it's not mine. And it really isn't. You know what I mean? That was one of those situations where, I didn't have a needle with me. I didn't pack a needle. I wasn't using a needle. So I had spoken to her son and I said, hey man, are you banging, heroin? And he said, no, that he had injected some cocaine. I said, well, your mother found your syringe. And trust me when I tell you, I'm not taking the heat for this. You know what I mean? I don't want this woman calling Child Protective Services and saying that, that I had needles around her grandson or any of the things that could come up from this. I said, you need to take responsibility for this. The other option is I just tell her these yours. I'd like you to be able to step up and tell her yourself, but I'm not taking the heat for this. The moral, the long and the short of it is, he said that he had no intention whatsoever of telling his mom that was his, and that he had no problem with me telling her either, but he wasn't ready for that. So he took off for the weekend and left me with the duty of explaining that, yes, in fact, that had nothing to do with me. But when I went in and told her that this belonged to her son, it literally, she stared me in the eye and I said, listen, I just want you to know that syringe was not mine. I talked to your son about it and that belonged to him. And she said, so are you guys planning on taking your son to Discovery Zone? And I went, what? She said, weren't you guys going to take, your son to Discovery Zone today? I said, did you hear what I just said? I said, that syringe was not mine. It belonged to your son. It is his. So she said, so you are going. I promise you people, this is no joke. And over the course of about 5 years of interacting with this woman on a fairly regular basis, this was her coping skill. She had the ability to pretend that what you were talking about was not happening. She just shut it out like it did not happen. She would not acknowledge it. Now, is that coping? Yeah. Is it healthy? No, sir. The purpose of coping with anything is to get from point A to point B, to get through whatever natural disaster is happening in your life. And you can pick a natural disaster. Let's say it's a massive IRS problem. If you've never had one of those people, you cannot imagine how much they come out of left field, and you can't imagine the fun of an audit. But let's say that out of the blue, you find out that the federal government is going to come in and crawl through every single document that you own. They're going to go back 7 or 8 years and look at everything you've spent. It is a nightmare. It's like something out of a movie. They crawl through your life and pop up with receipts and say, "What did you spend this $630 on March 3rd, 2 years ago?" They're like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, how would I possibly know, what I did?" The idea of coping with this is to get through this process as they're tearing your life apart. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do it, right? You can do it with a coping skill, or you can do it with a coping mechanism. Now, if you just completely pretend that this is not happening, when that audit is over, you're going to owe the federal government a landslide of money, right? And you'll be lucky if you don't pay penalties and fines. And who knows, you might even get a vacation at Club Fed. The other option is that you use coping skills to try and remain calm through this entire process. Now, the way people develop coping skills, the key word in that is skill, right? When you think of skills, it should always occur to you that skills are not something you're born with, they're something that you learn. Talent is something that you're born with, right? You can be an amazing, amazing athlete, but to take that athletic ability and then learn the sport you're going to put that into, that is a skill. Even if your ability to throw a ball through a hoop is something you're born with, and from the age of 13, you can drain 3-pointers from anywhere on the court, you're going to have to learn the skills of dribbling that ball, of figuring out how the game works in order to take that talent and apply it through the skills that you're learning. So more likely than not, you have some God-given gifts in terms of being able to cope. There are very few people who are so crippled emotionally that there isn't some natural ability to try to cope with things. So what you have to do is take that natural ability and then learn the skills in which to plug that in so that you can get from point A to point B and do it in some kind of a productive manner. And some of these things, everybody can do the same thing on. Some of them are going to be very personalized to you. But things like controlling your breathing, which we've done shows on in the past, when you get the phone call and it says, "Hi, this is Agent so-and-so with the Internal Revenue Service," the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to go, right? Your breathing is going to get messed up because we all react to things physiologically. There is always a physiological element to the panic that causes the rest of the meltdown. And the first thing that happens is your breathing gets messed up. And we've talked about this at length before. And your brain, although it is hooked up to your eyeballs, does not see. It processes. And literally, as that panic starts to set in and you get a little bit of adrenaline that starts to kick and all of those things happen, your breathing gets shallow and you're not getting enough air in and you start to panic and the brain starts doing this one and you get all these, the thoughts just start to jumble and everything gets frightening. Your brain is not really quite sure what's going on. It just knows that bad things are happening. Like within the body, something really bad is happening. This is the same mechanism that used to protect us from bears and tigers and things that wanted to kill us, millennia ago. So by starting that process of breathing deep, getting oxygen into your body and trying to relax as you do so, you're telling the brain, I'm not in any danger of death. Once you get that off the table, once your brain realizes that, oh, we're not running for our lives, right? This is just something that's going on, that now you can start to take a look at whatever is affecting you at that level, and you can start to do it in such a way that is healthy. You can start to do it in such a way that is going to get you, again, from point A to point B. One of the things that you really kind of need to think about and sort of hammer home is, if you start to develop your coping skill the day that this thing hits you, if you have no coping skills whatsoever, and Agent McDonough calls you from the Internal Revenue Service, that's going to be a very difficult time to develop coping skills. These are the kind of things that are easiest to develop when the ship is not hitting the sand. You understand what I'm saying? If you're trying to develop these things during a hurricane, that's going to be a difficult thing to do. The wind is blowing, right? Everything's going bad. But if you develop strong coping skills before the wind starts blowing, you're going to be in much better shape when that phone call comes, or whatever that crisis that is going to come up in your life. And they come in every single shape and size. If I asked everybody on the boat to recall what has happened to them in the last 7 days, I would hear 2,000 small crises, because we all go through them every single day. My bobble-headed partner on the other side of this glass just got done with a live feed. And no matter how much you prepare and get ready to go and have everything put together perfectly, That will be the one time that your family needs your attention. That will be the one time that the internet just doesn't go smooth. It'll be the one time that every time I've hit this app my entire life, this has worked exactly how it's supposed to. This time it's not going to, right? So one of those situations where you have to be prepared to take yourself into coping, right? You have to have the skills in place so that you can deal with what is going to happen. Now, there are people who go about this in 1,000 different ways. There are things that you can do physically that are going to help you with your coping skills, far more than just breathing. There are people who run for no other reason than to clear their head. There are people, and I mean a bunch of them, who do yoga, not because the flexibility is so good for your body, but because the discipline of yoga is fantastic at calming the mind. In fact, the entire purpose of yoga is, in theory, to calm the mind as you're standing there on one foot, balancing in the most ridiculous of positions you've ever seen, staring at one place off in space. The instructor from the front of the room who talks in a monotone voice says, quiet the mind. Pick a spot in space and quiet your mind. And it's the truth. If you're in there and you're stressing and you're thinking about everything going on in your life, you are not going to balance on one foot. You are not going to hold yourself up on both hands. You're not going to get into any of the poses that they've got you developing as part of your yoga discipline. So start to look at the things that you do in your life to try to develop a calmness of mind and spirit, because calming the mind, chilling out your brain, is a coping skill. The ability to detach yourself from the crisis. So you get the call. McDonough says, guess what? We're going to audit you. Now you can jump right in the middle of that audit and start to have all of these things as they're flipping around you and the papers are there, or you can take a step back, literally, physically, every part of it. Detach yourself from the scene and say, okay, what we're working with is this. The federal government is going to come in here and they're going to crawl over my stuff. So who do I need to contact? Okay, well, I have an accountant. I probably better get the accountant on the phone. If you can detach yourself long enough to think logically, that's a coping skill. That gives you the opportunity to start doing things that are going to allow you to get through, right? Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. We have this sneaky habit of stopping dead center in the middle of it, right? We're in a fecal matter storm, right? Things are flying all over the place, not literally, but metaphorically. And what do? We park ourselves right in the middle of it and just get pelted from every direction with all of the things going on. Now, knowing full well that the story of sobriety is just like the story of life. So as you're dealing with McDonough, who has called and said, I would like to go over every single piece of paper you have ever had in your hands for the last 7 years. I would like to know if you bought paper clips, how many of them you bought, why you bought them, and why you wrote off this dinner that you bought, on March 3rd, 2019. Well, as that's happening, that's the day your daughter is going to call and say, hey, I just got into a fender bender in your borrowed car, right? Guaranteed. These things don't usually come one at a time. Very often, these things start to come fast and hard from a bunch of different places. And what you have to do is learn to cope, not mechanisms, not saying, that's it, not dealing with McDonough, not dealing with the daughter, you deal with this stuff, I'm going to my room. That is a mechanism. That is not a skill. A person who says, all right, first thing we got to do is we got to get the accountant on the phone and call my attorney. That's probably going to be a deal. Get a hold of that guy at the bank. I'm going to need bank statements going back 7 years. And you probably ought to call the insurance company while we're at it. Or better, you're going to prioritize these things, right? Which one of these has to be handled immediately? Well, McDonough's not going to show up at your door in the next 6 minutes, right? So let's deal with this car wreck, fender bender thing. Make sure this is taken care of. Cross this off of the list. As addicts, we have an amazing ability to say, I'm not dealing with this. That's why we did dope, right? Well, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with this. That's not a coping skill. That's a coping mechanism. Running from the problem doesn't go away. My brother is famous for talking about this. As you run away from things that is You start to run away from your problems, you're going to face them. The only difference is when it catches up, you're going to be out of breath because you've been running from it. Your best bet is to turn around while you still got the energy and the fight in you and take on whatever is coming at you and take it on, full on head on. Now, people, you want to talk about a subject matter that will get every single person on the planet to disagree with you in some level. It's the one I'm talking about. Because every single person believes that they deal with things in their own way, and they're right. I'm not telling you how to cope. What I'm telling you is that there are coping skills, and they are skills. And anything that is a skill needs to be developed, it needs to be practiced, it needs to be honed. If you do not do that, then you do not have a coping skill. You may have a mechanism. It is a very, very different animal. Coping mechanisms have the ability to get the same result. That is to say that it will get you from point A to point B. Does that mean it's a good thing? Well, probably not. If I hide from McDonough long enough for him to say, well, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to ding you for this much money for all of the last 7 years based on the highest amount of money that you ever earned in 1 year since you couldn't produce all of the paperwork. Well, he's going to go away. Here, you got through the audit. Congratulations. Probably not the best case scenario, right? If you say, I'm not dealing with this fender bender, I'm just not doing it, right? Instead of taking the car out there, having it looked at, doing it all day one and getting it put away, instead you've got people calling you, people trying to get you to take photos, people trying to do all of these things pile up. The one thing about coping is the quicker you attack the things that are bothering you and take care of them, the better off you're going to be. And if you want to disagree with me on that one, come on, man. Seriously. I mean, maybe you don't like the hat, whatever. But if you want to disagree with me that the best way to handle anything in terms of coping is to attack it, well, you're wrong, right? I'm not telling you how to cope with it. I'm just telling you that coping with it needs to happen. And it is something that we just simply do not do. It is the nature of addiction, right? You drink because you don't want to cope with things. Drinking is a coping mechanism. Doing drugs is a coping mechanism. It is not a coping skill. Will it get you through the problem? Yeah. I mean, in theory, you're gonna drug your brain long enough where the crap is eventually going to end. I don't know how many people would be honest, but how many of us, while in the life, would get a speeding ticket and just wait for it to go to a warrant, right? I'm not paying that thing. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. You get the warning in the mail. Hey, man, you got a speeding ticket. You were supposed to mail us the money by the 7th of March. If you don't take care of it by the 21st of March, we're going to put a warrant out for your arrest. I probably got 15 tickets in my life. That is exactly how I dealt with them. I remember going in front of a judge with a pocket full of money. And the man said to me, you've got 4 warrants for speeding tickets. I had been arrested. They pulled me over, pulled me out of the car, arrested me, took me to jail. And when I went in front of the judge, I said, look, I just want to pay the fines. He just smiled and shook his head and said, no way. I don't care if you got $1 million on you because you showed zero respect whatsoever to the court. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 4 days for every one of these, and you're going to sit in jail, and you're going to think about what it means to take care of things when it comes up. If I get a ticket now, I'm taking care of it that day. I'm going to go down and pay that puppy before the ink on it is dry. Because one of the coping skills that I have learned is I'm not very good at getting back to things. It's not a skill of mine, probably because of the amount of time I spent running away from every problem I've ever had. Now I try to run at them, and it works a lot better for me. I'm not telling you it's going to work better for you. It is, but that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that you need a game plan, because if things are going good in your life and you're sober and things are starting to go well, they're not going to stay that way. They're just not, right? I am developing the coping skills right now. I talk about it with my partner. We talk about what's going to happen when the channel levels out, when we get to a point where new people aren't coming in. Every day, people bail off this channel. We don't know how many because it doesn't really work that way. What we see at the end of the day is how many new people we got. So we go, wow, we got 20 people today. For all we know, we got 60, right? And 40 bailed. Because as people decide that they're really not as excited about sobriety as they were when they hit subscribe, they unsubscribe from us. That's the nature of what we do here on this channel. So we're planning ahead of time for the day that it levels out. And if you think about things before they happen, this is how we're going to deal with it. Well, we're going to view the whole thing philosophically. The same way that we're viewing this. We pump our fist in the air and say, you know what, it's awesome. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's super cool. We don't dwell on it all day long. We celebrate the victories, but we know that the level out's coming. Plan for it ahead of time, right? They always used to say that you make money and you put a little away for a rainy day, right? You got to put it in the barn, right? You make hay while the sun shines. Put some of it in the barn. Make plans for when the ship hits the sand. You get that fender bender thing from your daughter, and they say, in the process of that fender bender, you blew 2 tires, right? Skidded off the road, the tires are gone. If there's an account that's got $700 put up in it for a rainy day fund, right? This is the kind of thing that normal people who didn't live in the boat that we live in do. They actually put money aside for those things that are going to happen that they haven't seen. Some people do it with credit cards, right? You got 2 or 3 credit cards that got $4,000 limits on them, and you don't touch those puppies for anything, right? That is I'm in deep trouble card. That's not I want to buy a flat screen TV for $600, and by the time I'm done paying payments on it, I paid $3,200 for my $600 TV. Or I took a girl out to dinner for $100, and by the time I'm done paying it off, it was the $700 dinner on a date that didn't even go well. You start to plan and you start to live a different existence. That means things like bank accounts, driver's licenses. This may sound silly, right? Do you know how long I went in my life without having a driver's license? When you're living in that life, I'm not telling you I didn't drive. I just didn't go down and get a driver's license. A lot of those warrants and tickets were because I was driving without a driver's license or driving on a suspended driver's license. These days, I have a driver's license, I have a car, I have insurance. I am a citizen. I'm square as all get out. And being ridiculously square in ways like that is a coping skill. It is a way of being prepared for things before they happen. If everything is taken care of, if you're doing the things that you're supposed to, it becomes a lot easier to cope with things. For instance, if you have been ridiculously organized and McDonough calls you and says, we're coming over for an audit, and you go, come on over. Okay, that blue filing cabinet right there, that's 2019. If you look in the front, those are going to be all of the write-offs from entertainment. It'll be under E. And as you go through there, everything will be in alphabetical order. I have the receipts stapled to all of the different, boom. That's a coping skill that you do ahead of time. Planning, right? Planning. I used to laugh at people who make lists. Now I make a lot of lists because it's one of those things that I have learned keeps me from finding myself in situations that I can't handle, right? The longer I'm sober, the less the chance of something coming up that I can't handle. But when you first are sober, a lot of those things that seem like maybe they're not the end of the world feel like it is. Because every time you got a flat tire in your life, you got high, right? Or every time something happened where, there was some kind of court action or some kind of anything that you had to endure, you had the ability to turn it off. I'm just not going to deal with this. I'm just going to shut down Mr. Brain for the next, 2.5 hours or for the next 2 days or for the next 2 weeks to get through what is about to happen. That's my coping skill. No, that's your coping mechanism. A coping skill means that you take care of things and you do it logically. You detach yourself from the problem and you think about it in terms of logic. And if you disagree with that, I'm sorry. I really am. You know what I mean? Puppies and kittens stink. You know what I mean? There are just things that shouldn't be disagreed with, people. You got to take care of these things. You've got to take care of these things. You have to be in a position in your life where when storms come, you're able to deal with them. Develop skills in order to do this. And you are going to find yourself a much happier person. And it's amazing how it affects the people around you. Your significant other is going to be happier. Mom and dad, right? Siblings, everybody. For so much of my life, one of my coping mechanisms was to call my older sister. For real, because she knows how to cope. So when the storm comes and the fender bender happens, before I called the insurance company, I called my sister, who would then go into that mode that I should be able to do on my own. All right, here's what we're going to call. Let's take care of this. You need to go and get that done. You need to do this. When you get to a point where you're taking care of that on your own, and from the smallest thing forward, people, how many times have I said making my bed? Swear to God, it's a coping mechanism. It's my way of starting the day and coping with all of the things that are going to happen. It's my first thing that I need to take care of. If I knock that out of the way, well, I'm already successful on the day, right? Success breeds more success. That continues to do that. If I get up in the morning and just kick the sheets to the bottom of the bed and roll out and start my day, that's how my day is going to go. It's probably how my week is going to go. The next thing you know, that's how my year goes. And I'm relapsing that entire time. And then eventually that relapse is going to become the real deal. The relapse is going to become using again. Am I making any sense? I'm not getting as much bobblehead because my partner, you see, is still halfway thinking about other things. No, I'm picking on people because it's what I do. But I have reached that time of the show, and I love this time of the show. This is the time where I throw all of my attention to the man on the other side of the glass. And then I'm allowed to do my squirrel action, where I look down at some of the comments and find out who's been disagreeing with me for the last 45 minutes. Mark, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing good, guys. Anybody that came over from my channel tonight, I will be doing another live stream just so everybody knows. I didn't do that thing justice. And it was my fault we were late tonight. Freaking kids, man. You not hear me?
No, I just said, I thought I heard you say that was your fault. I was just enjoying it.
Yeah. My fault, for real. But yeah, guys, just a quick little technical note here. Any moderators that didn't see my text or my message there in the chat, please email me. I want to set something up for us in the background here so we can get some things working. Just email me and we'll talk about that later. Also, happy birthday to Cemetery. Today he is, he or she?
I believe that's a he, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, sorry if I, mislabel you there. Happy birthday, 45 years. Also, Yeshua's disciple says that she's quitting pain meds, cold.
Oh, fantastic.
24 hours, huh? I imagine you're probably feeling some withdrawal so far. Yeah, it's hard. It is, Yeshua. It's not easy. Don't kid yourself to think that it is, but also don't kid yourself that you can't do it, because you can.
Absolutely.
And it, all of us here, obviously I'm on Suboxone. Most of us have experienced some sort of withdrawal. Even with the Suboxone and stuff, there's a certain amount of things that you have to go through, but, that is, I imagine you do feel horrible, Yeshua. That's just it's a hard thing, guys. Anybody that's here just hasn't dealt with addiction like that, just know that is. I'm glad you're willing to come here and talk about it and tell us. It does, that right there in itself says that you're probably ready to do it. That you're just talking about it, period. Most people won't. A lot of people won't if they're not ready to. So just understand that. And, but yeah, there's been a lot of good conversation here in the chat. But I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that and, let her know that we're here. And, again, guys, you guys can always email Tommy. You can email me. My email's in the chat. I suggest everybody please go join the Facebook group. There's a lot of avenues that we've already, we've laid down some good roads here for people to go down if they need some help. You can come here. We're going to find you a place where you're going to be comfortable talking. Or if you don't want to talk, that's fine too. Come listen. And you'll learn and you'll benefit from it. And I really, truly, wholeheartely believe that. Facebook is a really good avenue, the group that we have over there right now. That's a good, pretty much an immediate, you're not going to get like an immediate reaction, but you can. And there's been, Harper's mama was in here, immediately said, hey, if you need help, we can hook up and I'll talk to you. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's just another testament to you guys and the 2,000 of you guys that have, already here. And I do think that is, you guys continue to amaze me with that. It is something that you can't reproduce. You can't ask for it. It's natural. And you guys continue to do it, and it continues to floor me. I can't imagine how much easier my recovery would have been if I'd have had something like this. Honestly, don't make no mistake. I will always be in recovery, right? But I'm talking like at the beginning stages. This really would have made it a lot easier, I guess. I really don't know how to word that. It's just really, I had a really strong support system. Most of you guys know that. Even with that, though, I still wanted an avenue to be able to talk to somebody that had been through it, and that's something I didn't have with my family. So I had to rely on going to local groups and things like that. And yes, that is some help, but at the beginning, I didn't put into it. I didn't. Because you're just there, you want to get your medication, you want to go home. That's just really what it amounts to, right? At least it did for me. And finally, once you start participating, you start getting a lot out of those groups. Oh my gosh. You really do get what you put in. And I see it here too. You'll see a lot of people get a lot more out of it once they start talking in the chat. You can see it. You can see their attitudes change. If you go back and watch when they first came over to the boat to now, you'll see how they've progressed. And I just want to say, with the letter you read, that was, awesome. I mean, it really does. What would Suboxone do to help?
You know what? I tell you what, that is not a 6-minute call. Please email me. I will get a hold of you this evening. If you have not had a discussion with someone, Yahushua's disciple, if you have not had a discussion with somebody about all of the different avenues available to get off of opiates, there are 4 or 5 different methods of getting off of opiates and staying off of opiates, all of which have positives and negatives, and all of which I know a decent amount about. I would be more than happy to discuss all of this with you, but there's no chance I'd do it any justice in 6 minutes. Even if I talked about nothing else and we just tried to do this, I wouldn't get through 2 of them. Yeah. But if you reach out to me this evening, I will contact you this evening. I promise you that. You will be in contact with me tonight, and we will talk about all the different avenues available to you, because this is, well, number one, this is what we do. And my drug of choice was opiates. So this is something that I know an awful lot about, in terms of personal experience. And there's really nothing more important than right now, like where you are at. Yeah. This is the time.
I think she came over from my channel. If I
remember, I had seen her on your channel, so I know that she did.
I think I remember you. She was a disciple. And so I know, yes, exactly. Please email Tommy or me. We both can point you in the right direction. And I really think, Tommy obviously that's his thing. So, if you really want, and again, if you find yourself getting ready to thinking you're going to go right back out and get something you're not supposed to, we do have numbers that are posted if you think you need that kind of help, like right now. Don't hesitate to call those numbers. It's not going to hurt to make a phone call. That's what I would say to that. But I would still please contact one of us, and we'll get you in the right direction at least give you some advice on what we do and what we've been through, because both of us were opiate addicts, and both of us.
Brandon, 11 days. Congratulations, Brandon. That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome.
What's up, Johnny?
Oh, my much older brother. Good to see you, Johnny. I'm glad you had the opportunity to stop in here and say hello. It's always great when my brother stops by. Good to see you, Johnny.
Good to see you, brother.
So please, Yahushua's disciple, please do reach out. It's
Brandon.
Okay. Yeah, please. That would be awesome. Means a lot, to be sure.
Yeah.
I saw a comment that said, boy, did this hour go by quickly. You gotta love a comment when you do a live feed and people say that the hour went too quick. That is good stuff. Yep. It really is. Especially when the lion's share of them were on another live feed right before they got here. A lot of people came right over from Wages World, where we were over there doing some work as well. But
I didn't even get a chance to point
that's
everybody.
Great. And Brandon, keep up the fight, brother. That is, I'm telling you, every single time I see you type in, it feels good to be X number of days sober. It absolutely warms my heart. I would like to say, let's go, Brandon, but that just, these days, that doesn't mean the same thing it used to a while ago. But we're proud of you, Brandon. We really are. It's It really is amazing.
Yeah.
Brian Michael says Ryan's letter was on point for sure, especially considering people that this is a young man. You know, this is a guy in his early 20s. There's nothing more exciting from where I sit than seeing someone that gets it that early. Because if you can get it and get it under control, I knew at 20 that I had a problem. I mean, I knew I was bad off in my 20s, and I was deep into my 40s before it was something that I was able to get a hold of. So you know, that's awesome. It really is. I'm so happy for Ryan, and he went and did. You know, he came here. He was so scared. People do, by his own admission. I'm not picking on the guy. He came here and said, "Man, I am scared to go into a medical detox." And like so many other things in life, that fear was just driven by the unknown. And it was so awesome because so many of you had gone down that road. I had not ever gone through a medical detox for alcohol, but like happens so often here on the lifeboat, the crew, thousands of them now, people, thousands, but the crew immediately rose to the occasion and just told him exactly what to expect. And that's perfect. You know, it took that fear away, and he went into that so excited. Yeah, just awesome. And then he came out 20 pounds heavier, just feeling good about himself. It's the dream.
Yeah. You know, that
really
weight
is.
thing you just spoke about right there, that's a big thing for people. Hey, Jacqueline,
Yep.
good to see you. But yeah, the weight, that is like one of the most first things that people realize. You know, you don't realize how much weight you've lost during all that. And then when you gain it back, people are just like completely shocked you gain it back that fast. That's what, you know, that's what happens, guys. It really is. We don't know it. We're looking at the same mirror every day, right? So we don't even notice it. And
Correct.
That's
a lot
really,
of truth to that.
Yeah. So
great comment from Mrs. Hermit, Hill, Kentucky. She said, "Prayers and love for all of you. I'm proud of each of y'all, no matter how long you have been on your journey to sobriety." And you know what? We love that comment. It's something that we say here every day. To me, the most impressive of those days are always the first 20, first 30. That's really when, you know, someone is in there fighting that good fight. That is the time that it is just so important. You've drawn a line in the sand, and you're doing what needs to be done. So, but you're right, for all of you, no matter what stage of sobriety you're in, and for those of you who are here tonight and you're using, we love you, man.
Yep.
We do. We've all been there. Nobody here is looking down their nose at anybody that is shopping around and thinking about sobriety. If you're here tonight, you're using, we love you. We really do.
Judgment whatsoever.
Give it some thought. Yep, no judgment. Give it some thought, because I think that you'll find it really is a better choice. It all of the avenues that become open to you once you can put the behavior, the drugs, the chemicals, all of that in the rearview mirror, like those coping skill things I was talking about. You know, you can really go from the coping mechanism to the coping skill. That's a hard thing to do when you're under the influence. But if you're using tonight, give it some thought. You know, you need a little bit more time. Keep coming back. Keep listening. And you might one day decide that this is something that's for you.
Hey, buddy, Soul, just want to say hi to you. Thank you for stopping in.
And Niall Parkinson says, "Cap, shout out to Mark. He slowed the chat down. I told you, miracles." Niall, thank you so much. And we'll give a shout out to Mark. Mark, well done on the chat thing. Slowing that down. Definitely seems to be working a whole lot better this evening, Mark. You're the man. Thank you, Niall. Really appreciate that. You know, we love that. We really do. And people, we find ourselves right at the top of the hour. This is the time that we like to keep this to, so that our partner, the kind people at YouTube, as they push us out to the four corners of the world, we do considerably better when we keep those videos to the 1 hour or under mark. When they get over that, people just don't want to take a look at them. So we really do appreciate everybody coming here. It means the world to us. For those of you fighting the good fight, keep it going. For those of you who are not quite ready, keep coming back. Keep coming back. Keep listening. Brandon, congratulations. Thoughts and prayers, people. You remember who all those thoughts and prayers are for, correct? Let's keep that going. Saigon, love you, brother. And to each and every one of you, thank you so much for coming here and making the dream a reality. There's thousands of crew members now, and you people did that. Between now and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast, that would be Oculi Mortis's coast, we're going to ask you to do one thing between now and then. reach out and try to save somebody. It is what we do. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Thank you, people. We will see you tomorrow.